Hadith number 76, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Once I came riding a Shias and had attained the age of puberty. Allah's apostle was offering the prayer at Mina. There was no wall in front of him and I passed in front of some of the row while they were offering their prayers. There I let the Shias loose to graze. Hadith number 77, narrated by Muhammad bin Rabia. When I was a boy of 5, I remember the Prophet took water from a bucket with his mouth and threw it on my face. Hadith number 78, narrated by Ibn Abbas, that he differed with Herb bin Qais bin Hisan al-Fazari regarding the companion of the Prophet Moses. Meanwhile, Ubay bin Kab passed by them and Ibn Abbas called him saying, "My friend and I have differed regarding Moses' companion whom Moses asked the way to meet. Have you heard Allah's apostle mentioning something about him?" Ubay bin Kab said, "Yes, I heard the Prophet mentioning something about him. While Moses was sitting in the company of some Israelites, a man came and asked him, 'Do you know anyone who is more learned than you?' Moses replied, 'No.' So Allah sent the divine inspiration to Moses, 'Yes, our slave Qadir is more learned than you.' Moses asked Allah how to meet him. So Allah made the fish a sign for him, and he was told when the fish was lost, he should return and there he would meet him. So Moses went on looking for the sign of the fish in the sea. The servant boy of Moses said, 'Do you remember when we betook ourselves to the rock? I indeed forgot the fish. None but Satan made me forget to remember it.' On that Moses said, 'That is what we have been seeking.' So they went back retracing their footsteps and found Qadir. What happened further about them is narrated in the Holy Quran by Allah. Hadith number 79, narrated by Abu Musa. The Prophet said, 'The example of guidance and knowledge with which Allah has sent me is like abundant rain falling on the earth, some of which was fertile soil that absorbed rainwater and brought forth vegetation and grass in abundance. Another portion of it was hard and held the rainwater, and Allah benefited the people with it, and they utilized it for drinking, making their animals drink from it, and for irrigation of the land for cultivation. A portion of it was barren, which could neither hold the water nor bring forth vegetation. The first is the example of the person who comprehends Allah's religion and gets benefit which Allah has revealed through me the prophets, and learns and then teaches others. The last example is that of a person who does not care for it and does not take Allah's guidance revealed through me. He is like that barren land. Hadith number 80, narrated by Anas. Allah's apostle said, "From among the portents of the hour are the following: 1. Religious knowledge will be taken away. 2. Ignorance will prevail. 3. Drinking of alcoholic drinks. 4. There will be prevalence of open illegal sexual intercourse." Hadith number 81, narrated by Anas. I will narrate to you a hadith, and none other than I will tell you about after it. I heard Allah's apostle saying, "From among the portents of the hour are: 1. Religious knowledge will decrease. 2. Religious ignorance will prevail. 3. There will be prevalence of open illegal sexual intercourse. 4. Women will increase in number and men will decrease in number, so much so that 50 women will be looked after by one man." Hadith number 82, narrated by Ibn Umar. Allah's apostle said, "While I was sleeping, I saw that a cup full of milk was brought to me, and I drank my fill till I noticed its wetness coming out of my nails. Then I gave the remaining milk to Umar ibn al-Khattab." The companions of the Prophet asked, "What have you interpreted, O Allah's apostle?" He replied, "Knowledge." Hadith number 83, narrated by Abdullah bin Amr bin al-As. Allah's apostle stopped for a while near the Jimr at Mina during his last Hajj for the people, and they were asking him questions. A man came and said, "I forgot and got my head shaved before slaughtering the Hadi sacrificing animal." The Prophet said, "There is no harm, go and do the slaughtering now." Then another person came and said, "I forgot and slaughtered before Rami throwing of the pebbles at the Jamra." The Prophet said, "Do the Rami now and there is no harm." The narrator added, "So on that day, when the Prophet was asked about anything as regards the ceremonies of Hajj performed before or after its due time, his reply was, 'Do it and there is no harm.'" Hadith number 84, narrated by Ibn Abbas. Somebody said to the Prophet, "I did the slaughtering before doing the Rami." The Prophet beckoned with his hand and said, "There is no harm in that." Then another person said, "I got my head shaved before offering the sacrifice." The Prophet beckoned with his hand, saying, "There is no harm in that." Hadith number 85, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "Knowledge will be taken away by the death of religious scholars. Ignorance and afflictions will appear, and Harj will increase." It was asked, "What is Harj, O Allah's apostle?" He replied by beckoning with his hand indicating killing. Hadith number 86, narrated by Asma. I came to Aisha while she was praying, and said to her, "What has happened to the people?" She pointed out towards the sky and saw the people offering the prayer. Aisha said, Subhanallah. I said to her, is there a sign? She nodded with her head meaning, yes. I, too, then stood till I became unconscious, and later on I poured water on my head. After the prayer, the Prophet praised and glorified Allah and then said, just now at this place I have seen what I have never seen before, including paradise and hell. No doubt, it has been inspired to me that you will be put to trials in your graves, and these trials will be like the trials of Messiah ad-Dajjal, or nearly like it. The sub-narrator is not sure which expression Asma used. You will be asked, what do you know about this man, the Prophet Muhammad? Then the faithful believer will reply, he is Muhammad, Allah's apostle, who had come to us with clear evidences and guidance, and so we accepted his teachings and followed him. And he is Muhammad, and he will repeat it thrice. Then the angels will say to him, sleep in peace, as we have come to know that you are a faithful believer. On the other hand, a hypocrite or a doubtful person will reply, I do not know, but I heard the people saying something, and so I said it. Hadith number 87, narrated by Abu Jamrah. I was an interpreter between the people and Ibn Abbas. Once Ibn Abbas said that a delegation of the tribe of Abdul Qais came to the Prophet, who asked them, who are the people? Who are the delegates? They replied, we are from the tribe of Rabia. Then the Prophet said to them, welcome, O people, or said, O delegation of Abdul Qais. Neither will you have disgrace nor will you regret. They said, we have come to you from a distant place, and there is the tribe of the infidels of Mudar intervening between you and us, and we cannot come to you except in the sacred month. So please order us to do something good, and that we may also inform our people whom we have left behind, and that we may enter paradise. The Prophet ordered them to do 4 things and forbade them from 4 things. He ordered them to believe in Allah alone, the Honorable, the Majestic, and said to them, do you know what is meant by believing in Allah alone? They replied, Allah and his apostle know better. Thereupon the Prophet said, that means to testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and that Muhammad is his apostle, to offer prayers perfectly, to pay zakat, to observe fasts during the month of Ramadan, to pay al-Qumus. Then he forbade them 4 things, namely ad-Daba, Hantem, Musafat, and Nakir or Nukayar. The Prophet further said, memorize them and tell them to the people whom you have left behind. Hadith number 88, narrated by Abdullah bin Abi Mulaika. Uqba bin al-Harith said that he had married the daughter of Abi Ihab bin Aziz. Later on a woman came to him and said, I have suckled Uqba and the woman whom he married at my breast. Uqba said to her, neither I knew that you have suckled me nor did you tell me. Then he rode over to see Allah's apostle at Medina and asked him about it. Allah's apostle said, how can you keep her as a wife when it has been said? Then Uqba divorced her, and she married another man. Hadith number 89, narrated by Umar. My Ansari neighbor from Bani Umayyah bin Zayd, who used to live at Awali al-Medina and used to visit the Prophet by turns. He used to go one day and I another day. When I went, I used to bring the news of that day regarding the divine inspiration and other things, and when he went, he used to do the same for me. Once my Ansari friend, in his turn on returning from the Prophet, knocked violently at my door and asked if I was there. I became horrified and came out to him. He said, today a great thing has happened. I then went to Hafsa and saw her weeping. I asked her, did Allah's apostle divorce you all? She replied, I do not know. Then I entered upon the Prophet and said while standing, have you divorced your wives? The Prophet replied in the negative. On what I said, Allahu Akbar. Hadith number 90, narrated by Abu Masud al-Ansari. Once a man said to Allah's apostle, O Allah's apostle, I may not attend the prayer because so-and-so prolongs the prayer when he leads us for it. The narrator added, I never saw the Prophet more furious in giving advice than he was on that day. The Prophet said, O people, some of you make others dislike good deeds, so whoever leads the people in prayer should shorten it, because among them there are the sick, the weak, and the needy. Hadith number 91, narrated by Zayd bin Khalid al-Juhani. A man asked the Prophet about the picking up of a. The Prophet replied, recognize and remember its tying material and its container, and make public announcement for 1 year, then utilize it but give it to its owner if he comes. Then the person asked about the lost camel. On that, the Prophet got angry and his cheeks or his face became red, and he said, you have no concern with it, as it has its water container and its feet, and it will reach water and eat of trees till its owner finds it. The man then asked about the lost sheep. The Prophet replied, it is either for you, for your brother, or for the wolf. Hadith number 92, narrated by Abu Musa. The Prophet was asked about things which he did not like, but when the questioners insisted, the Prophet got angry. He then said to the people, ask me anything you like. A man asked, who is my father? The Prophet replied, your father is Hudhafa. Then another man got up and said, "Who is my father, O Allah's apostle?" He replied, "Your father is Salim, Mawla of Shayba." So when Umar saw that on the face of the Prophet, he said, "O Allah's apostle, we repent to Allah." Hadith number 93, narrated by Anas bin Malik. One day Allah's apostle came out and Abdullah bin Hadhafa stood up and asked, "Who is my father?" The Prophet replied, "Your father is Hadhafa." The Prophet told them repeatedly to ask him anything they liked. Umar knelt down before the Prophet and said thrice, "We accept Allah as Lord and Islam as religion and Muhammad as Prophet." After that the Prophet became silent. Hadith number 94, narrated by Anas. Whenever the Prophet asked permission to enter, he knocked the door thrice with greeting, and whenever he spoke a sentence he used to repeat it thrice. Hadith number 95, narrated by Anas. Whenever the Prophet spoke a sentence, he used to repeat it thrice so that the people could understand it properly from him, and whenever he asked permission to enter, thrice with greeting.